Hi everybody, welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. As always, podcast sponsored by GEORDIE Gifts. You can see the information at the very bottom of the screen. Bestie's pointing right now, I think that's what he's trying to do. But thanks for joining us once again. Thanks to everyone who signed up over the last few days as a member. There has been a handful of you. Let's get to business, boys. Decker, you're just pointing at Mark's head.
I was, yeah.
So let's start off the finer things in life. How are you three doing? Start with you, Decker.
I'm fabulous. I've put on a tiny bit of weight. Had a great Christmas. Baines loved it. Got pissed. Ate lots of food. Played golf today. So yeah, it was almost, things felt a bit normal for once. So that was really good.
You, Mark, how's your day been? Well, how's the last few days been? Haven't seen you or spoke to you since before Christmas.
Well, you know, it's yes. First things first. Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to the festive. I've had a few drinks, so I'm going to probably speak even more bollocks than normal.
I'm not sure if that's possible.
Welcome, one and all.
What you drinking there, Mark?
Very well.
What you drinking?
Rhubarb and what's it called? Rhubarb and ginger gin with ginger ale.
Oh,
or ginger beer, ginger ale, same thing in it.
No.
So,
Bestie, what's happening
what's the
behind
difference
you?
between ginger ale and ginger beer then?
Jesus, Bestie, those shirts were just moving behind you. Look at them.
What's going on there?
It's like that scene on Home Alone where Kevin's like controlling everything.
It's the dance computer.
So, Bessie, how are you, mate?
Belter, cheers, mate. A lovely Christmas. For all the kind of the difficulties that we've had all this year and stuff like that, I've had a thoroughly lovely week. Just dead canny. I've got no red stripe left though.
Oh, you drank both cases already?
Aye. Well, I've had some help, but
the Bane.
Aye. That's why it's just to try and get me to stay asleep. But I'm doing this, mate, because I'm a bit loud, so a couple of cans, knock them out.
So you definitely should have bought more than when they were on offer.
Should have done I thought 48 would do us. I mean, 48 has done us. It's now like the 28th, so it's not as if I've been sitting on Christmas with a cat that's growing on my tongue and stuff like that. It's been all right, and I've managed to.
Have to get some more for New Year's.
I got given a load of candy ales off my dad for Christmas, so.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Is that Louis Vuitton?
Am I the only one not drinking tonight?
Honestly, Chris, I've got so much drink left outside. You've got no idea. Bottles of Prosecco all over the place, champagne. I've got 2 cases of Budweiser. We drank loads, but just not as much as we thought we would. So
yeah. There you are. So if you're in South Shields, hop over Decker's back garden wall and help yourself. It's free for all.
I'll go outside with loads of homeless people just lying against me wall, just fucking more.
Let's get down to business. I don't want to focus too much on the game, the Man City game, right? Because the players didn't really seem to focus on it much, so I don't see why we should. But there's 2 major things in relation to the starting lineup, and we had Matty Longstaff back in there. Thoughts on that? Obviously, the club tweeted earlier on that it was basically Matty Longstaff's shirt, so we had a good inkling that he would be starting. Start with you, Bestie. Thoughts on that? Was that a shock for you, considering the 4 games that have gone prior to this one?
Yeah, it seemed to come out of nowhere, really, didn't it? I mean, at the start of the season, when he got given the number 4 shirt, I think people kind of thought, oh, well, maybe he's going to be in the starting lineup more often, or was it just because of the contract situation where he stipulated, right, I want a decent squad number? I mean, who knows, but yeah, a surprising, a bit of a pleasant one, because people have been calling out for him, and we've said on here loads of times that we've been pretty deficient in centre mid all season. Really, we've been kind of just bypassed, and the lads there haven't been doing a job. So nice to see Matty come in. Just because it's a different face, it's someone else to get upset with, basically, isn't it? So
it's another Longstaff brother to get annoyed at. Over you, Decker. Obviously, Sean Longstaff hasn't had the greatest of times since ever. After his first half of season as a senior professional. So was that a welcomed invite for the likes of yourself?
Definitely, I echo kind of what Bestie says. I think we've spoke about centre midfield being a problem for a long time. Certainly the lack of legs and the energy in there. Well, there isn't any. That's the problem. We have played I think it's 5 games in 2 weeks, in 14 days. And he's played Longstaff, Sean, in almost all of them. So to be honest, I also had a feeling that Bruce might kind of take this for what it is and just rest a few players. Maybe thinking, even if I do play me very best, we're still not going to get anything. But I was still glad to see him get a game, though. But it's a bit unfair on him, right? That the first game you bring him back is away to Man City. Talk about easing him back into the game. It's not the best, but I was still pleased to see him.
So about you, Mark, Lee Forster, thanks for watching, Lee, has said, let's be honest, the manager absolutely hung Matty out to dry. No games all season and dropped him in against Manchester City. There's quite a few comments similar to that one, mate. One from Sean Saunders saying, it's hard to judge Matty on a game where we didn't have the ball, but I think he adds energy. So what's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I think there's a few comments have been a bit unfair to Longstaff, because I think he came in and he did reasonably well compared to the people that have been in there before him. He certainly did bring a bit more added energy into the midfield that we've been missing. He definitely brought down closing down in a bit of chasing of the ball as well, which we've massively missed for a long time. He actually tried to put pressure on their back line and their midfield into trying to hurry them and getting them to move the ball around. He at least gave her a bit of effort, which we haven't seen, which is more than we can say in many games over the past couple of months. But for it being his first game back, and people think he's been hung out to dry, I think he did all right. He did better than could be expected.
I think the hung out to dry comments, mate, I think that is more thrown towards Brewster than anything that Matty's done. Obviously, Matty done well, probably better than what a lot of people were expecting against that Manchester City team. He did look lively. He was chasing the ball. He was closing the players down. So he's only done himself credit there, and basically proved that the fans have probably been right, but for wanting to see a little bit more of him this season. And like I said at best earlier, we've had the 4 games there prior to this, 3 against the 3 newly promoted teams and 1 in the Cup against Brentford. So with you, Bestie, why has he not had a chance there?
I have no idea. Anyone's guess, really. Does Bruce maybe just doesn't fancy him? But then if Bruce didn't fancy him, why would he play him against Man City? I just don't know. Maybe he saw Man City's a bit of a free shot. But obviously Wilson didn't play on Saturday either, and he's played Joe Linton up front in his own, so he's thought, well, we're going to lose the game anyway, so maybe he's rotate the team a little bit. Play some of the lads who are maybe not in the starting 11, although Joe Linton has been for a little bit now, just to kind of rest some lads. I don't know, but it's a bit of a shame, because I agree with Mark. I don't think Longstaff did a great deal wrong on Saturday, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that question was asked of a lot of the by the reporters, and Bruce came out and said that basically Matty hasn't been fit, that he'd lost a lot of weight during kind of the break. He's been carrying a couple of injuries. I think it was his thigh that was mentioned. He'd had a bit of a thigh injury, and I hadn't really noticed until you've seen some pictures of him, and he actually does look like he's lost a hell of a lot of weight. He seemed to be, that always be that little bit, have a little bit of chubbiness to him, whether that was just kind of the youth on his side and stuff like that. But the pictures that I've seen recently of him, he definitely looks like he's dropped a fair bit of weight, and maybe it's that thought if he didn't have the physical presence to get into games and that match fitness and strength in his body. Were the kind of the comments that I'd seen mentioned.
So you mentioned Bruce saying that Matty's been struggling with an injury, didn't want to rush him back. I'll go by you, Decker. We've seen Bruce rush players back. So this one's out of the blue. He also came out and mentioned Shelby hasn't been fit, but Shelby's been playing games. How can he go and play one player and then not play the other one and use the same reason? It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't. I think Shelby's been playing through an injury for the last 5 years. It feels like every time he has a bad run of form, it tends to be the manager, not Shelby, but the manager comes out and they'll say, "Oh, well, he's been carrying a thigh strain or a groin strain for X amount of weeks." But credit to him because he's played through it. If the guy cannot run anyway, so if the guy's got an injury, my God, you're going to really struggle. And I don't want to knock Matty here whatsoever. I also thought he played well on Saturday. But the few things we've mentioned there, he chased, he pressed a bit, he harried them. This is professional football, man.
Basic,
any midfielder should be able to do that. And I'm not knocking Matty here. That's not what I'm doing. I'm knocking the rest of them. Is that Matty's performance on Saturday was better than what we've seen, and all he really did was chase, hurry, press a bit, and look busy. Like that's how low the bar is in our centre midfield. I believe is like that should be a given. That when you put the shirt on, you fucking press someone and you run around.
There's no need to be hysterical, Decker.
We'll get onto that towards the end, Bestie. Don't you worry about that, mate.
It just shows you how divided we've been, though, doesn't it? In midfield, when those basics that you're talking about, or something that we pick up on as a bit of a highlight to somebody's performance. It just hasn't happened. Hasn't happened at all.
Thanks, Keegan, for signing up to become a member. Thank you very much. We're not extending this one by 10 minutes tonight. I don't know if we've got enough content to do. We'll make content up, like, to be fair.
We're pissing moan for a good 2 hours.
We've all got plenty of drink.
It can be hysterical.
Mass hysteria.
I know I'm flagging. Right. Another one which I wanted to talk about. Bestie alluded to this earlier. I'll go straight with Bestie because he did mention it. Callum Wilson dropped from the starting 11 with a knock to his ankle, I think Bruce said after the game. That came out of nowhere. I think everyone was expecting to see Wilson start. Are you under the impression where if a player is fit enough to be on the bench, it should be fit enough to play the game?
I don't know. I think it depends on it depends on the depth of your squad. I mean, if you've only got 20 fit players, and don't forget, apparently COVID still hasn't quite gone from the club yet. Like, there's still a few players who are struggling with it. So I think under perfect ideal circumstances, you would have 16 fully fit players. Or is it 18 now? Because we've got 7 subs, haven't we? Yeah, so you'd have 18 fully fit players ready to come on and just play the full 90 if need be. Realistically, at the minute, I don't think we can have that. Like, so if he's not fully fit, but he's making up numbers on the bench, I mean, you'd rather he wasn't going to get used, and you kind of assume he wouldn't get used. But I don't mind that too much, given the circumstances.
Do you think, I'll go to you, Decker, do you think obviously Joe Linton's up top, like how we've seen him when he first came to the club? It was just another drop in the ocean for Joe, wasn't it? Basically, you've got no chance up there. Absolutely no chance. You've got no chance against the lower teams in the bottom of Premier League. Never mind the likes of Manchester City. So he's on to a thankless task there, isn't he?
Absolutely, mate. And again, what I'm going to get annoyed about here massively is a couple of weeks ago, Steve Bruce came out and said, I think we've finally understood how Joe Linton plays. He needs to play off someone, foil for him. He's no good being the leading guy on his own. And then what does he do? He puts him up against arguably the best team in the league on his own up front. And you're like, are you having my life here? You're like, and it's not Joe's fault that every single time he was trying to collect the ball, he had no support whatsoever. Yes, all right, his touch might have let him down occasionally. But I'm being honest here. Joe Linton going on in that pitch, knowing he's up front on his own, fucking lashing down the rain. He's probably thinking, do you know what it is? I can't be fucking arsed here. Like, and I should never say that because I'm the first to say they should try and they should do this. But when his own managers came out in the papers and said, oh, well, actually, we all know he can't play up front on his own, but then he puts him up front on his own against Man City. Come on. How?
I'll go to you, Mark. Dwight Gale was on the bench. Would you have liked to see him get a chance? I know he did come on as a sub, but is the likes of this sort of game something which Gale would shine in, or is it a case where there isn't a player that would shine in this game when they're up top alone?
Nah, I think that I think he's put you on based on there's maybe a bit more of a physical presence up there because he didn't expect to really have many opportunities getting the ball up front, so he's probably relying somewhat on just hoofing the ball up and Joe just holding it up to try and bring the midfield in or get the wide players involved, whereas Gale's not as likely to do that. He doesn't have as much physicality and presence, if you want, as Joe Linton does have. I honestly think, though, with the whole Wilson thing is just because we were playing Man City. Had we been playing another team, I think even if he was carrying a knock, he probably would have put him in and risk them. He's probably looked at that and thought, it's Man City away. We're probably not going to get anything there. We'll give him a rest because it's a bit of a free hit. He's probably thinking, looking at the Liverpool game on Wednesday, looking at the fact that they've got no fit defenders at the club, and thinking I'd rather have Wilson available in the team for that one than Man City, who are going to give with no sniff of the ball.
I mean, you have to manage it, right? And I get what you're saying, and I suppose maybe he's thinking that I'll rest him up and we'll live to fight another day. That's why I think Matty played, because he almost felt that we'll get beat anyway, even if I played our best team or what he believes is our best team. And he's thought, listen, I'll just give a few other guys a run out. Let's try and keep the score down and go home. That's
quite ironic that we didn't start off too badly against City.
Mark, you've said this, and this is not offence to you, you've said this an awful lot, that will start off canny for a 4-5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's as good as it gets.
Well, even a bit before that, I thought up until they scored, we didn't look too bad. We didn't look great, but we didn't look too bad. I thought there was definitely a bit of an improvement there, but how much was that? Again, also because City weren't great. They didn't play particularly well, albeit they still had enough to beat us.
That was the problem. Yeah. I think they didn't have to play well. City looked embarrassed at times that they were just strolling past our players. They scored the first and the second, and there wasn't really a celebration there, was it? It's like, we're expecting to score that one. There was nothing. It's because there's no, and we've said this for God knows how many weeks and months now, there's no determination, there's no eagerness, there's no fight in that team. There's nothing. It's flat.
That's the biggest worry.
The biggest worry for me, mate, is that you look at other teams, you look at the likes of Villa, West Brom, whoever you want to see, the teams who you would expect, I know it sounds daft, but you would expect Newcastle to be playing as well as football as some of those, to put it lightly. But then you see those go against the likes of City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and of course they may sit back for a little bit, but they still get chances, they still create chances, and they're still trying to get to the ball. We don't. We just try and stop those from scoring. It's not about us taking the game to them. Once in a game, we are just happy to sit back and try and put a brick wall up against that goal, and it hasn't worked at all this season, and I don't know why we keep on trying to do it.
We'll play football like we're a lower league opposition every game. Every single game, we play a game as if we're the League One side or a Championship side. And I'm getting fucking sick of it, to be honest with you. And I'm sick of it for months. I can sort of understand that you might do it against Man City away. All right, I'll probably give you that one. I mean, we did it previous years at Man City at home, and we got terrorised for it. Gary Neville, remember, on Sky was going off it. Oh. Remember that? It was really bad, right?
Yeah, then the praise another team for doing it a couple of weeks later.
That's right, yeah. And I still think there is certain times when I understand why you would do it, but we're seeing it every single week, be it Crystal Palace, be it Brentford, be it Fulham. Fulham was a prime example. We were literally at home against Fulham, backs against the wall for a good 50 minutes. And that's just not on, man. That's just not on.
I remember the Leicester game last season, the 5-0 down at Filbert Street, whatever it's called, King Power Stadium. And it was the first game where he'd changed from 5 at the back to 4. And we just got picked off, and he says, "Oh, well, no, it's because they've been trained to play 5 at the back, so that they can't play any other way." And you're thinking, these are professional footballers. Like any centre half good enough to play in the Premier League can play in a 4 or a 5. That's not an issue. The issue is coaching. You're not telling me that Fabian Schär, who's like played for was he Deportivo? Yeah, he's been around a bit. Plays for the Swiss national team. He's played in World Cups, played European Championships. You can't tell me that he's so inflexible that he can't play in the middle of a 4 at the back. It's bad coaching, all it is. He hasn't got a clue. He's not good enough.
Well, Rafa did say Shea can't play in the back 4. He openly did say that. But I totally agree with what you're saying. And the reason why, for me, if it was 5 games into Bruce or 10 games in and he said that, listen, we've been playing as a back 5 for so long. He's been there for nearly 2 years now. And it's getting worse. Yeah. So when does the point come where you have to hold your hands up and say, it's actually, I'm getting this really wrong? Every single week that goes by will get worse as time goes on. And I was the first to say, give him time. As much as I didn't want him here, and I didn't want him in the first place, who knows, he might get his own players in. He might start playing the way he wants to play. if that's four at the back, if that's keeping the ball better. That's what he said he wanted to do. He's been there nearly 2 years, and we cannot do any of it. So,
and I think the players most of the players that were brought in the summer aren't bad players. They're not. Obviously, Callum Wilson, we've got an absolute steal with him. But Fraser worries us massively, his injuries.
He's picked up another one allegedly as well.
Yeah, he has picked up another one. And you've got Lewis, left back, who he comes into the club with high expectations, and he's had a couple of decent games, but it looks like he's going back over as well.
Yeah. It's confidence with him, though, doesn't it?
You can, mate, but then you look at the other side of the pitch, and you look at the likes of Almiron, and he's going back over, mate.
He's looked really bad.
What's going on here? What is going on? It's like that. Any sort of drive, and I know I said this earlier, but any sort of fight and eagerness and anything like that, it's been taken away from these players, and it looks like they're not. Well, we can see they're not enjoying. They are not enjoying playing for this football team, and there's no way they were brought into this club expecting to be in the likes of a relegation fight, or to be happy with a 15th, 16th finish, will they?
That's another thing that Bruce once shot with shit with, is that he came out end of last season saying, right, we've stayed up. My job is now to try and get in the top half, or certainly be 10th around about. Now he's saying my job's to keep winning the division. So you can't tell me you signed Wilson, Fraser, Lewis, all these players you've just mentioned, and said, my job is to keep winning the division, lads. That's all. No way. Absolutely no way. He's lying now. He's literally lying on things he's already said before.
But I've sat here and said that time after time after time, that his sole purpose in that role is to keep us in the Premier League. Yeah. Yes, he's never came out and said it, but that is his role. Yes, he can come out and say that he wants to finish 10th, but he ain't showing that, is he? So he is quite happy. He's obviously been told, just like anybody else, when you play Plymouth, online, your Championship manager and stuff like that, you get given your stuff by the board of what you need to achieve in the season. He needs to achieve safety. That is his only goal. Yes, he came in and said, I want to finish in the top half. I want to finish 10th. That's what we want as fans. For him now to come out and say, oh, well, you need to come around to my expectations of all we need to do is survive. It's wrong.
It's similar. I'll go to you, Bessie. It's similar to the likes of McLaren, when McLaren came out and he's judges after 10 games, then it was 12 games, then it was after the end of this season. He kept on extending it, and it looks like Bruce is going down that same route where he's basically saying, we'll want top 10 finish, then I'll be happy with this finish. Then now it's my remit here is to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. He's moving the goalposts. He's kind of tempering expectations to try and keep pressure off himself. I don't think there's anyone in the support, or anyone right-minded, if you want to call it that, in the support, who would say that this Newcastle, as they are, with this owner, whatever that prick Charlie is, with Bruce in charge, is going to be a serious Premier League outfit. We're going to be challenging for this, that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever. I think realistically, we all know what we are. We all know that we're in the battle for 17th place. You see it, people say it on Twitter all the time. So yeah, I don't think Bruce saying to us that that's what we are kind of really means anything, because we know that if he's tempering expectation, and it's almost an acceptance from him that this season isn't going to go very well. The remainder of it's not going to go very well. Let's try again next year. And I've said it time and time again. Like if Steve Bruce stays in Newcastle, they'll get relegated eventually. He only takes you one way, and it's not up the table.
Yeah,
we expected this when he came, didn't we?
Do you know when you say that, Bessie? Oh, sorry, Mark. Sorry.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, we saw this when he came. His history tells us that he comes into a club, he doesn't do too badly in the first season, and then it all goes downhill from there. It's exactly what we've seen at every club that he's been at. It's what we're seeing here now. The comments that you just made there, Chris, about the fact that he was saying, in matching it with McLaren about judges in after 10, judges after a season. He said the same again this week, where it started judges after 10 games, judges on the position at the end of the season. He's now into this season. He's saying, well, it doesn't matter where we are now or what the performance is. It's what happens at the end of the season. So judges in May.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'll go to you after this one, Dicker, but it's all fine when you are finishing in the top 5 by saying judge is in regards to the league position. We're never going to be that high, so it doesn't really make a difference to ourselves if we finish from 11th to 17th. But we'll want to see some decent football. If it's going to be a couple of league positions, we'll want to get some enjoyment from the fixtures, Decker. We don't want to sit and be watching that every single week.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to comment. Bestie made there about it's right that we know as fans where we are because of the owner we've got, the manager we've got, etc. But I do feel that the squad we have and the team we have are better than that, or better than 17th, or better than 15th. I honestly do believe that.
I agree with that as well. Yeah,
and it's not often I say that, mind you, because I have said to you a few times that we've still got a bunch of championship players. There's a few played, I feel, on Saturday that I think we do need to ship on. But hey, what team doesn't have players that they want to ship on? But going back to your question, sorry, Chris. Yes, the problem is that it's every single week, isn't it? And I think all of us four here, you watch them, and my passion and drive's gone as well. Even when we concede a goal, I'm like, oh, well, I was expecting that. The Brentford one's a prime example. Well, I said we'd get beat, but I'm watching the game and Brentford scored, and I was like, oh, well, fucking expected it. It's a fucking quarterfinals of a cup, and I'm reacting like that. Like, that's how bad it's getting. Do you know what I mean?
If you saw a bit of progression, if you saw a bit of improvement, you perhaps wouldn't mind as much that we hadn't been getting results lately, or you might be inclined to give him a bit of time. Like we've just said, he's had over 18 months now, and nothing has improved.
Do you honestly think that there has been a comment in there, Mark, asking, do you honestly think Ashley has told Bruce that his only goal is to stay in the Premier League when he's given him a lot of money to spend?
100%. All he
Even with all that money?
All he cares about is staying in the Premier League. 100%.
Do you not think that
even Rafa said the same, that the only target he had as a manager was to keep us in the Premier League.
I think the difference between what Rafa had and what Bruce has is basically the money available. And Bruce has had a lot of money thrown his way. Has he brought those players in? Well, probably not. They've probably been handpicked for him, and he's had to choose from a list. But you would expect the money spent, it's got to be higher league position than 17th.
Would you say Ashley said the requirement is to stay in the league? Of course it is. But that's also double-barreled with a minimum. Like, I've given you 100 million. You have to stay in the division, but I would expect or like you to be X, which might be 10th or 11th, I'm not sure, mid-table, for example.
I don't think so. No, because Ashley just doesn't have that connection or that desire to see the club improve anything. All he wants to do is to secure the money that he has in there, make us a viable option as somebody to come in and buy. So the way that happens is by ensuring that we remain in the Premier League and remain a Premier League team at all costs. That's why we don't do well in the cups, because Premier League's the important point. It's all about the money and staying in that league. He's not investing in this club to make us more successful or to show any ambition. He's investing in the club to protect his investment.
I think that's probably right. I think that's probably right. I think the money he spent in the summer, he was expecting to get back from the takeover going through. I think that was what he was doing. Was Newcastle are a more saleable asset, and he'll get more money for them with them in the Premier League. So I think he's gone, right, we'll spend the money on 20 million on Wilson, whatever Fraser's wages are, whatever it was that we got Jamal Lewis for, because at the end of the day, I'm going to get all that back. That doesn't look like happening, does it? So I think it's just been he's kind of been almost being sold a bit of a dummy in that regard.
All the noises have already started this week saying that there's going to be no money to spend in January.
Yeah. So Luke Edwards had that tweet earlier.
That didn't surprise us, if I'm honest, to be honest with you. But
what I want to talk about, I'm pretty sure this was prior to the game or the other day. Was it prior when you started seeing that it was mass hysterics?
It was just before, I think, yeah.
It was after the Brentford game, yeah.
Mass hysteria.
Yeah. So basically, I want to go through some things which I picked up off NUFC.com here. So Steve Bruce, August the 26th, 2011. when he was Sunderland manager. He says, it shows you how difficult it is up here. The mass hysteria from Sunderland fans, I find some of it pathetic, to be honest. Moving forward to 2017, September the 25th, when he was Aston Villa manager. Of course, at a club like ours, it turns into mass hysteria from Aston Villa fans. A couple of bad results, and all of a sudden, it's the end of the world again. Right, come to the present, so December 26th on Boxing Day, we had a bad week, and some of the mass hysteria, in my opinion, was unjust, unfair, and a lot of it was not right, in my opinion. It seems like we're getting a little bit of a pattern here, where Steve Bruce isn't getting the results on the field, and he goes and starts having a go at the emotion from fans and basically the passion that the fans have for their club. And it's not just Newcastle. We've seen it obviously there at Villa. We saw it at Sunderland. We're probably seeing it at every other club that he's been at. He cannot really have a go at us for being angry, being upset for the performances, for the results, because this is what football fans do. We've got every right to do this. So who is he to start saying that we are doing things like this for attention and to put the pressure on him? This is your job, Steve. Your job is to get results, and you're not.
Just shows how out of touch he is, doesn't it? That he can come out with comments like that, because he obviously feels that the Brentford performance wasn't as bad as everybody else does. That's why it's mass hysteria.
Yeah,
it wasn't a bad result in his eyes.
I do see it sometimes. I'm not agreeing with him here in a way, but sometimes with any fans, but also ours, we lose a couple of games, and it does feel like the house has fell down, like the world's caved in. However, the reason why people are so angry now is this has been going on for absolutely ages. Even when we win, we've played shit. We're literally never, ever, ever.
You're very lucky at times, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's why you're seeing mass hysteria. Yeah, because we are now getting to this. Well, we've reached the stage where this is just no longer good enough at all. It's not even resembling football at the moment, and that's why we're so passionate and so angry.
Yeah, I wonder if during after when Matty Longstaff scored that goal against Man U, the 1-0. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he was telling the players to calm down. They're just hysterical, don't get carried away. Yeah. Or when Isaac Hayden scored that header against Chelsea in the last minute, or when drew with Man City. Or did they beat Man City? They beat Man City. I can't remember now exactly. But I wonder if he's benefiting, then, or the team's benefiting from having the crowd behind him and having the kind of having the team driven on by the crowd as they were in those occasions. I wonder if he was quite so quick to bemoan the passion of the fans on those occasions.
Do you know what it is, Bestie? It's all well and good for Bruce there to have a little dig, which he's had a lot of Newcastle fans over the last few months. It's not the first occasion he's done it for a few times, and it's all well and good for him to say that we're being hysterical over things at this moment in time. But the reason why it's like that is because we can see which direction this is going. We can see we're going to drop down that league very, very quickly, and when the shit hits the fan, Steve Bruce isn't going to be there. He's going to be out the door. We're the ones that are sat with our club sat in the Championship, struggling to get back up into the Premier League again, and that's down to him. So of course he can wash his hands of that, but we can't. It's down to Ashley, really. I mean, the whole thing Ashley's the problem. Steve Bruce isn't the problem. Steve Bruce is our problem, but he's not the problem. I think you've got to recognise. I know that you do, and we do recognise that Mike Ashley is the. And I know that every podcast that we do, I seem to have a little section where I'm not having a go at Luke here, but. And this is another one of those where Luke seems to think that if you're having a go at Bruce, it means that you're forgetting about Mike Ashley, and that's just not. That's never the case. You can be upset with both. I don't trust Ashley and Charmley to make the right decision at the best of times. But if people say, if you get rid of Bruce, who do you get in? And there's any amount of options out there that are better. There's any amount. Yeah. With that, I said earlier, the team have got. I saw over Boxing Day, there was a few people tweeting, be careful what you wish for, which I hate. I hate that saying, mate. We had that under Pardew. We had it every... Yep. We had it when Ashley was meant to be selling the club, but careful what you wish for. Fucking... Our champion will just sit and finish 17th, 18th every season with fucking fingers up our asses, man, getting a bin. I hate that. Mm. Yeah, I agree totally. For me, I said this last week, that the Brentford game was the most important game of Bruce's tenure. Because it was a chance to get to the semi-final. And do you know what it is?
regardless of who we've played against, I would say well done, because we've never been there for fucking 25 years or however long it's been. But that performance was so poor, wasn't it, though? It was so bad. I still haven't gotten over it, to be honest.
What made it even worse, mate, was the fact that the last 5-10 minutes, you could see there was no plan, there was no backup plan.
Yeah,
so he thought,
nothing.
I'll throw all 4 strikers on, just hit up the field, and one of them will score.
Yeah.
There is no plan at all. And I've said this time and time again as well, even when he does put every man behind the ball and try to shut up shop, teams just flood through her, man. Just water, just flooding through her. There's no idea off the ball or on it.
Does it worry you, Mark, that Bruce clearly doesn't know his best 11?
It beggars belief, doesn't it? After this amount of time that he's been here, like we've just been saying, that he doesn't know, what team to pick. But it all boils down to what Bestie said earlier: is he just doesn't have a clue. He doesn't understand how to go out and approach a game. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have the tactics around how to beat a team. He just sends them out, all the best lads, go and give it a go. Just see what you can do. Try and beat them. You can't look at that team and think there's an approach here. The only approach that we seemed to have was when Saint was fit, was just get it out to him and let him run at them and see what can happen. Even when we play with wide players, you'd think, oh well, anybody could say it, right? Oh well, we've got two wingers on. Let's get the ball out of the wide lads, get them forward and get balls into the box. Midfield, you run on and get in there, pick up some scraps on the edge of the boxes. You don't even see that happening. I'm not a bloody Premier League manager, but I could at least tell them and instruct them to at least go out and try to do that. Anybody that watches a game of football will have ideas around, how you want them to play, how you want them to approach the game. You just don't see it. The only thing that you see is just, well, lads, you just sit there at the back, make sure that it's tight, and then we'll try and hit them on the break and get something there. But even when he's trying to get them to sit tight and shut up shop, it doesn't work. How many goals have we been shipping?
He's clearly under pressure, and you can see the pressure is getting him now. We saw a video earlier on today. I'm not sure if you also did that, but with Lee Ryder, the interaction between those two in that conference. Yeah. What's all that about? What's Lee Ryder done to make Bruce so snappy?
I don't know if I miswatched this, but I felt he just answered the question. Like, yeah, you're right.
So I think it was from the very start, mate. So obviously it's Zoom meetings that all these press conferences are done on Zoom. So I'm guessing the likes of club, PR representative, whatever they're called these days, will introduce that person speaking. So obviously over at Lee Ryder, then Bruce isn't even looking. He just goes, Lee.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
That's what he gets. He just turns his head, looks, and goes, Lee. And like that, then obviously Lee Ryder goes on and says, basically, outs him for his comments being completely wrong by saying that Newcastle fans were being over the top, blah, 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 saying, do you not think that was being down to the Brentford game? Then it was just,
Yeah.
Look away again.
I'll get what you're saying now then, right, okay. That is an interesting one, isn't it? I don't...
There's something, I'm not sure if that's just pressure in general, or if there's been a recent article or something like that, which I'd be very shocked for, because you don't see it very often, the likes of the journalists who are invited to the likes of these press conferences, you don't really see them going to town on certain managers, especially Steve Bruce, who we all know who has got friends amongst those. But I was shocked.
There's been a couple of comments recently from, I think it was Mark Douglas that had mentioned it, that in the press conferences of late, that they're given an opportunity, they introduced them, they get to ask a question, and then basically as soon as they've asked that question, the media, is it Wendy Taylor? Is that
no? Wendy's at the FA now. I think it's Lee Marshall.
Be Lee, wasn't it? Yeah.
Basically, is then moving the conversation straight on, not allowing them to basically ask a follow-up question or to ask any more questions and stuff like that. So I've seen a lot of those comments in the last few weeks.
There's something earlier today. Someone said that Luke Edwards had asked a question, and apparently it was a good question. I'm not sure what it was, but asked Bruce a question, very direct question about performances and results, and Bruce answered it. And Luke did try to follow that question up with another one, but then he got cut straight off over to the next one. So it obviously stops a conversation going turn into a very difficult one for Bruce, which I think, once again, I'll go at you, Bestie, but the likes of fans not really having a say in it and not being able to go into the ground, that's only working in Bruce's favour.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you look at it, obviously, I think the Fulham game was the most recent home game. And Fulham have put in a performance like, I mean, Fulham have had a bit of a decent kind of run in form of late compared to how they started the season, like so. But to come off the back of the Leeds game, the back of a pretty ropey game against West Brom, and then to draw it home to Fulham, and be lucky to do so as well. Like, I think we've said for weeks now the crowd would have been on his back. They would have been going wild with him at full time there for me. Like, and yeah, I think it's playing massively to his favour. I mean, I've heard the counter argument made, maybe by Luke actually, that if the crowd are in there, then you see different games of football. You see the team kind of get that extra little kind of that yard of pace, or that maybe the ball bounces a bit more fit because the crowd are in there, and I kind of not. You don't direct play as a crowd, but you can have you create an atmosphere. And
you look at the lack of bookings, mate. You look at the lack of booking this season, and that's down to fans not having obviously the Raw going round with certain challenges and things like that. So, of course, fans have a massive say. Definitely,
yeah. And I do think that will have made a difference. However, I don't think. I think that if the crowds were in there, then Bruce would be. He wouldn't be having a go at keyboard warriors. He would be upset by a lot more of the support. Or he would understand that a lot more of the support are upset with him. Sorry.
It's the only way people can express their opinion at the minute, though, isn't it? Is behind the keyboard, because that's the only way we can, get our opinion out there. You've got to either put it on social media or do things like this, where you can, put your opinion out there.
Or one of those airplanes.
He's very, very lucky. We've said it before. He's very lucky that there isn't crowds in the ground, because he'd get a true representation of how fans feel about him at the moment.
I think we've said many times that he's lucky to have this job. He's incredibly lucky to have the job. I think he's equally lucky that there's no fans in the ground. So there's no doubt about he's very lucky. I think when people say it's getting to them, I don't think it'll be getting him from above, because I don't think Ashley will be ringing him up saying, hey, what's going on? I really don't. I think he'll be sitting there very, very pleased. I think what might be getting him to this is that he knows in his own ability, he doesn't know how to get them out of this situation.
Yeah.
And this was always my thing about Bruce was, if the going's well, hey, no problem. But when we're getting a hole, I don't believe he has the ability to get what out of that hole. And I think we're finding that now quite quickly.
You think he would, though, the amount of times he's been in this hole, wouldn't you?
Well, Alan Thompson has said that Bruce is a fall guy. Ashley has always been the problem. We know that. I think what we're trying to see here is that there's some decent players in that team, and there's a handful of players that are going back over under Steve Bruce's coaching, and I think that's the worrying thing for us. Of course, we all know Ashley is the problem. Of course, we do. He always will be the problem until the club's sold. But we should be seeing better football than what we're seeing right now, and that's down to Bruce.
We've mentioned Bruce there all night, to be fair. If you noticed before the game, I think it was the Man City game, or it might have been the Brentford one, I was watching a footage of it, and Steve Agnew was the one on the pitch. Bruce wasn't even there. And it was Steve Agnew giving them the instructions. And you could see Almiron was looking, I think, at Murphy, as if to go like, like, what's he asking what to do? Yeah, this is before kickoff. It was, they were just working out. And this is why I've said this many, many times. It isn't just Bruce as well, though. It's Agnew as well. He always stands next to him on the sideline, and neither of them have got an idea, man. Neither of them have. And it's not just Bruce. Well, it is Bruce because he fucking brought him along, but it's the collective. Do you know what I mean? There's some real problems.
So Lee Barry says there, I'll go with you on this one, Bestie, that this is the best 11 since Pardew era. I think you probably got to shout for McLaren's side, because there was decent players in McLaren's team. I think if you were to make a starting 11 between all three of those teams, Pardew's, McLaren's, and Bruce's at the minute, that's an absolute fantastic team. So all three managers have been blessed with some decent players.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you mentioned the McLaren team there. I mean, in that you had Wijnaldum, who's won the Champions League and the league since. We'll see him this week. What he's probably going to do it with. Sissoko, who for all he wasn't exactly a crowd favourite, was streets ahead of what we've got now and who we've had since. You had Janmat, who was a useful fullback. I mean, Mitrovic was shite, but
he's got to get it in every week. Every week.
But yeah, I think certainly in the time since then, I mean, as much as I loved the promotion team that got built in the Championship 2016, like it was a Championship team, you know, that it was a. I prefer that team to this team, but not on ability, just on kind of the. I always think a promotion team's got to have like a bit of camaraderie about them and stuff, and they really seem to have that. But yeah, in terms of ability, I don't think there can be any argument really that this is by. I mean, I'm going to say by far. There's still big deficiencies there, but yeah, it's the best team they've had for a long time now, or best squad.
Yeah.
No, I'm we've still got 7 players playing regularly that appeared in the Championship forward.
Yeah.
That is a massive problem. We all know that. Another problem for me is St. Maximin. Where is he? What's happening here? Are you convinced by that live Instagram video which he done the other day, saying that he loves Steve Bruce, he loves the clubs, he loves the fans? Is there something else going on behind the scene, or is this basically his recovery from COVID, which obviously has affected him and his fitness and his fatigue? Is it solely down to that, or should we be a little bit more concerned, Decker?
I'm massively concerned, yes, because you all know how much, like, he's my favourite player for us, and excitement-wise, you know, and what he gives us. My worry is that it is more than this COVID thing. I truly believe that. I heard a few bits and pieces that the club weren't even convinced he even had it, but I'll not go down that route. The one thing I'll say about him is we've seen before when he takes a knock on the field, you know, the slightest of knock, he hobbles for a bit, he complains for a bit, he comes off on the sideline. So I do worry about him sometimes like that, and I'm not sure whether he's jumped on the wagon of I've had COVID and I'm still struggling.
But surely you would have had a test, mate. You would have thought. Surely there would have been a test by the club doctors, which you would have thought would prove that.
True. They reckon the test that he had wasn't in this country. It was in France, and that's what he reported back and says, that's the test that I've had. But again, I'm not going to go down that route. Yeah. Anyway, allegedly, just keep saying allegedly. So the problem you've got, though, is I heard he's still in France. That's a problem.
Oh, yes, apparently. Apparently he's in France.
That's a problem. So if the relationship was as good as what he says it was, he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be in France. He'd be at home, in my opinion. And I'm concerned that there's something really gone wrong here. And if we lose a player like him, he was the only bright spot we had. It would be a tragedy, like, to be honest, because he's you know how much I like him, but something's gone on there, like something's.
So I'll go to you, Mark. There was rumours that Saint and Lascelles had a fallout with Bruce. Then I'm not sure who it was, but it was somebody who does a podcast, a presenter who put a tweet out saying that he had heard these rumours as well, which was quickly taken down, and he came out and apologised for that. Did the club get involved with that one? Did somebody from Newcastle United say take that down because it's untrue?
It's either the club or it's the source that's given that information, isn't it? Has said, look, you know, you've got to take that away to either protect the person that's told him it or to stop the spread of that information. It's one of those. We won't know which one it's going to be, but we know that the club have done things like that in the past to other podcasts, other members of the press and stuff like that to get things that they don't agree with or they don't believe to be right removed.
Yeah, oh, well, I'll get ready for an email then.
It was Daniel Storey who.
I'll probably get it made, to be fair, not you.
It was Daniel Storey who does. He wrote for quite a bit for Football 365. He does the Athletic podcast now with James Richardson, and he's always quite sympathetic towards Newcastle. He's written quite a few pieces that are. He's a Nottingham lad. He's a Forest fan, like, but he seems to have a bit of a soft spot for us. Like, so he's someone that I've kind of followed for a while as a writer and on podcasts and stuff. And I trust him. I do. I don't think he would have said it to be salacious or to get a headline or like to be like one of the talk sport lads. Like, I do think he said that genuinely believing that was the case. Like, so it is concerning. Like, because somewhere along the line, why is it being crossed or someone's overstepped the line with regards to the information being given out? So yeah, it's a worry.
Yeah. That's it. It could be that him in all faith has gave that opinion because somebody's told him that to be true. in good faith. So he's reported on it. He's read that on the podcast and said it based on, it could be, you could have told me, Bestie, because you're an inside person. I've gone on to repeat it, but you don't want, people to know that you've told me. So you want us to remove it.
I wonder if it's a Rebecca Vardy type of situation.
Rebecca Vardy's account.
But I was just going to say before, when you said about the thing about Saint still being in France and it being a big concern, if he's not fit, what is the difference of him sitting in his house in Jesmond or sitting in his mum's house in the south of France or wherever?
It's pretty sure the club can keep an eye on him.
The club he has to come into training. He hasn't got COVID now, so he still has to come in and be assessed by our staff. You can't just sit in France and be eating fucking croissants and not saying, I'm still a bit fatigued, lad. Sorry. He needs to be at home.
A little bit stereotypical.
We pay... we pay his wage. No, we pay his wage, right? Well, I don't, but the club do. And he has a right to be at the club's training ground getting assessed by our staff, building up his exercise regime or whatever it is to get him back to fitness. He cannot just sit over there and just go, I'm not coming back because I didn't feel very well.
I'm under the same thought process as you on that one, Decker. I'm thinking obviously COVID, of course, he won't have it anymore. I'm not saying that he's not fatigued by it if he has had it, but he should be getting assessed by the club. He should be getting assessed by club officials and doctors. He shouldn't be in France going for his own tests over there to find out if he's fit or not.
Well, surely the club are allowing him to be there.
Well,
which is even more of a worry.
Is this not the problem, Mark? Is this not the problem? If that's why they're pissed off with him, and this is why we're in this situation. Because they can't physically fucking get him across here.
We're not blaming the club for this one. It could be Saint basically saying, I'm not coming back until I feel better. It could be that. I'm not blaming the club for this.
We don't know, do we? So if the club have said, right, you just stay at home and get yourself fit, what's the difference between him being at home in Jesmond or being in France? That's what I'm saying.
Well, if the club have came out and obviously we're just saying this, we're just spitting feathers, but if the club have came out and said, right, you go to France, come back when you're feeling more up for it, when you're feeling better, that's even worse from the club, in my opinion. The club should be there. He's your best player. He's your talisman. He's the star player. He's the only one that's probably going to get the ball up the field. You'd think that they'd be wanting him close to the club, close to the training ground, just to come in for the odd test, just to see if he's improving, rather than relying on him to update the club. You think the club will be doing their own tests.
The problem comes back to the whole communication thing, doesn't it? Is we don't know what the hell's going on. We don't.
And I understood it. I'll go to you, Bestie. Though there was a lot of fans kicking off saying why the club not told out which players have got COVID. They couldn't. That's up to the players to say that. The club are going to come out. It's confidentiality. They can't come out and say that. It's up to the clubs, and I think the club actually said it's if the players want to tell you that, then by all means they can do so. But they weren't going to do that.
It's the same as like if you're off work with the shits, work kind of going around and say, oh, by the way, like Decker's got the shit, so he's not going to be in for it's, there's that kind of confidentiality that you've got to maintain. Like, so it kind of people we did it in the WhatsApp group. We were kind of looking through training photos, going like who's there and who's not there, like, and I think for the most part now people kind of guess that. I think Hayden has said that he had it, and St. Maximin, I think, and Lascelles. And yeah, it's not for the club to come out and kind of point the finger, because I mean, it's weird. It's a weird thing. Like I had COVID. When was it? April. I tested.
Why ago you had it, mate? Yeah.
Like at the very start, more or less. And even now, when I tell people, I think, oh God, it feels like I'm telling them that I've got leprosy, or like I've got like some sort of like. So I'm unclean in some way. It's such a weird kind of thing. Like, so it's just strange. But yeah, with regards to being in France or being in Newcastle, I don't know. It's where's he going to recuperate the best? You'd imagine if he's in France, he's not like loading it, like he's clinking bottles of like red wine and going to town on like the cold cuts and all that. Like you'd imagine,
like Lauren Robert.
But you don't know, do you? That's the problem, isn't it? You generally don't know. Of course, you want to trust him. And I'm not saying he is. God, I really don't understand. I'm bashing him here. I'm just saying that with him being over there, you don't know what he's doing.
You imagine he'd still be. I mean, it's in the day and age we're in that the club are going to be speaking to him pretty much every day, setting him his nutrition, kind of his diet and all that, like, and making sure that he's taking the right food in and doing whatever. for the likes of you and me getting better from an illness, you just keep your head down, drink loads of water, and then a few weeks later, hopefully, all right. For a footballer, they're going to be taking all the right vitamins in, all the right supplements in, not loads of water, the right amount of water, the right amount of this and that. So that something like the club are going to have to be monitoring, you'd imagine, daily. But like you said, it's you don't know these things, it's just an assumption I've made. Like, so.
Absolutely right, and that's the truth. We don't know. It just, I'm a great believer when it comes to football. There's no smoke without fire, and I just have a horrible feeling that something's gone on that has led to this where we are now. And I hope he comes back and he's firing on all cylinders. Of course I do, but I feel there's something's broken here a bit.
Yeah.
One thing I would say about
it is personal opinion on this one. Okay, it's personal opinion. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know if it's club, if it's Saint. We don't know what's going on. Once again, it's the club not informing fans.
What I would say about the video is, which is a bit of a concern, is throughout that video he said he was feeling great, he was feeling ready to go and stuff like that. So that doesn't ring quite right with me around the fact that he still
could that not be lost in translation a little bit though?
Possibly.
Well, it's either he could be talking about the relationship, because there was questions about the relationship with Bruce that he was answering, or it could be just that he was meaning that he was feeling better after having the effects of COVID. Mm-hmm. But again, if you take it on the face value of what he said, did it almost give an inkling of that? He's feeling good. However, he's not being involved. This is the thing, is we just don't know. We're having to guess. We're having to just take the pieces of the various conversations that are coming around and try and make up a conclusion.
And Neil Gio hits the nail on the head there, mate. Charlie said at the beginning of the year that he would talk a lot more to the press and fans. Since that, he's been silent. A time where fans have needed to know a lot of information from the club. And I'm not just mentioning everything we're seeing in players with COVID. I'm talking about the likes of season ticket refunds and stuff like that. And we were the last Premier League club, if I remember correctly, to even acknowledge the fact that we're still taking direct debits for season tickets and things like that. It's once again comes down to communication, which we haven't had for a long, long time at this football club.
John is the most quiet and managing director in the whole of football, isn't he?
He said this. He's had about 3 starts at this, hasn't he? I remember
he says every season.
I remember you buy the program, maybe the beginning of the season, and it would have a Charnley spread saying, "This next year we're going to make sure communication's better." Blah blah blah. Rafa left. He then put another 3-page fucking horror show in the program saying, "This is how it actually went down. But from now on, when we get a new manager, I will be more vocal to yous." And yet again, it's just false promises, isn't it?
Right. So we've been going for coming up to an hour now. One of the things which I wanted to end it on, which we'll talk a little bit about now. Obviously, if people have got any questions, then fire them through and I'll go through them. As always, you've got more chance of them being read if you are a member. So go sign up. Bestie, we'll set you a little task, some homework today. And we've saw a lot of mentioning in regard to agencies. Yeah, in Steve Bruce's agencies. This morning, basically, I think it all came out, and a lot of connections between pundits, majority of them being TalkSport pundits, who are coming out and backing Steve Bruce. So let's go through some names, mate. We'll start with the ones which works in our favour. So if we're arguing that the only reason that these pundits are sticking up for Bruce is because they share the same agency.
Yeah. Right. So you've got blokes that have come out, and all of these. I saw a tweet this morning where literally every photo that was used was someone in a TalkSport office. So I don't know if this is just an agency that TalkSport go through, but it seems more likely than any kind of cloak and dagger to me.
Like a middleman sort of thing.
Yeah, basically. You've got Carlton Cole, Robbie Savage, Ali McCoist, Chris Sutton, Jamie Redknapp, who were Steve Bruce was in that list as well, but obviously Steve Bruce is going to be on Steve Bruce's side, isn't he? So I don't mind that tip where you'd hope at least.
Peter Crouch as well just came out as well, apparently. Peter Crouch.
Crouch as well, aye.
He's in there.
Jeff Stelling, that's always in the list as well. Stelling has spoke out in favour of Bruce as well over the past couple of years. Now, to me, when I first saw this kind of tweet with this list of names, I thought, that's quite interesting, that. And then when you go on this agency's website, and they've got Sylvester Stallone, Caitlyn Jenner, who, as I understand it, haven't come out in support of Steve Bruce.
Imagine.
No, I've not seen the latest Rambo film. Like,
Yo, Brucey.
I've not heard any of them kind of say that he's due the chop either. Like, so you've got to kind of offset it by that. But you've got Jake Humphrey, who's obviously kind of the friend of Newcastle United and all that. Joey Barton's on there, Michael Chopper, Mickey Quinn, Rafa's on there. Well, I had a quick look. Basically, I just thought, I'll search some football names and see what comes up. And with the exception of 2 or 3, every footballer I tried, ex-footballer, came up. Warren Barton was one I Googled, and he's represented by this agency as well. And he's been on Twitter this last week or two saying that he would do a better job than Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
Darren Byfield made us laugh because they said they've got Darren Byfield and included a picture of Darren Ambrose. So for all, I don't know how seriously you can take them, to be honest with you, but I've had a look through some of the people represented by them, and I must admit, as I say, when I first saw this tweet this morning, I thought that's quite compelling. That it's interesting. I wonder if there's something in it, and then literally, not even 5-10 minutes look like it, you think, nah, there's no in this. Like, it's just
So when you pay a little bit of attention, and you mentioned before we started recording, some of the spelling mistakes on this website are pretty bad. And also, I think one of the red herrings and one of the telltale things in this one is Jake Humphries also signed up to the same agency. Jake Humphries is someone who always defends Newcastle United fans and the lack of investment and dedication and looking at taking the next step is Jake. So there's been a comment in there from Kristen, who's obviously been involved in a lot of videos on this channel as well, basically saying, for what it's worth, I don't think this TalkSport thing is true. Basically what he's mentioned, what we're talking about right now. Carlton Cole has a different agent listed on his Twitter, and the guy behind the agency's website has been accused of lying before. So I think you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. I think we're just looking for a lot of sticks, another stick to hit Steve Bruce with, and for what it's worth right now, we don't need another stick. He's doing that job himself. We don't need to find other reasons to have a go at him. He's doing that all by himself.
I do think also, and this is honestly how I feel about it, I think as a fan base, we need to just chill out when someone, like some pundit or someone on a phone-in show, sticks up for Bruce or has a go. Just like it just gets a bit tiresome for me that every time someone comes out, the Chronicle will say, "Oh, he's had this to say about Bruce," and then everyone's like, "Oh, fucking hell!" Like, should we really care if Robbie Savage or Steve McManaman or like? It doesn't fucking bother me. Like,
it was really, really funny when they were saying Robbie Savage as a wanker, though.
It was, and
that was brilliant. That
you would sing that, I think, no matter what, really.
Yeah, it's true. Like,
but do you know what I mean? I just don't get us wrong. I've risen to it before. Richard Keys, for example, throughout the takeover situation and things he said in the past, I was 100%, gunning for him type of thing. But I just think it gets to the stage where just don't rise to it. Like, fuck them.
Yeah,
like
I agree with that. When you see, I mean, I know Chris mentioned that the TalkSport thing there, the lack thereof. I've anything that's said on TalkSport, there's certain things I won't kind of acknowledge. It's TalkSport, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Nigel Farrar. I just won't, like, they're not, without getting
Taylor Payne.
It's stuff that exists just for you to disagree with it, and just because it gives. What's that blonde haired last call that was massive, that got kicked off Twitter? Katie Hopkins. It's stuff that exists just to annoy people, and just in TalkSport's case to get them ringing in, or to get to kind of strengthen their brand, as it were, like, increase the profile. Right. Honestly, and I've got every single TalkSport account that I know I've muted, because
I've got them blocked. I've got them all blocked, mate. I think TalkSport Drive got me blocked.
It's Jamie O'Hara. I see a new one of them. Jamie O'Hara.
Yeah. Darryl Mitchell-Hill's just said there, the radio pundits that stick up for Bruce do it to get fans ringing their phone in shows for bites and rating.
You see it, right? You see it. And the likes of 5 Live, it is probably the worst ones at the minute with Savage and Sutton. And you see it. The radio show's recorded, and you see them laughing when they've got a Newcastle fan, rubbing their hands because I think this is great. We'll get a reaction out of this fan. So just stop bringing up. Just stop it. Don't give them the satisfaction.
It's all, isn't again. I did tweet Chris Sutton with something daft about Celtic's form and how good actually it was, even though the shit. And I suppose I'm guilty of it. But I mean, who cares about Jamie O'Hara? Chris Sutton, like, fucking hell. Like, I'm not honest.
It's just to get people upset and to get them ringing in.
You're right,
The more people that ring in, the more people listen. The more people that listen, the more money they get from advertisers. Just ignore them; they'll go away.
And then they'll get a pat on the back from their producer or whoever it is to say, "Hey, well done," because that tweet went wild.
Do you know what it is, though? Like, I put TalkSport up there with similar to the likes of Soccer AM, where it's a type of thing that needs to disappear for a little while. Have a rethink about how they do things, that then come back. And
I agree.
You had what's his face, Liverpool fan, Irish fella, that was on TalkSport for a while. Colin, what's he called? Colin
Murray.
Colin Murray, yeah, he had his own show on TalkSport for a while. It was a great show, absolutely fantastic show. Then he left TalkSport when it was it Murdoch that took over TalkSport?
Yeah, News
with the Liverpool, the Sun connections. He went, nah, I'm not being employed by you, and he left because there was hell on about Mickey Quinn still being employed, saying that he should have done the same.
The problem that you have with likes of TalkSport and these things we're talking about, when we go on a good run, your Suttons and your Jimmy O'Hara's, your Savages will be in your face all the time how good he's doing, how well he's doing. You then look at the last 5 games over the last 14 days, we only won 1, and we're getting dumped out the cup by Brentford and never talk about you. You never see Sutton or Savage going, how are Newcastle fans use a day and shit? What do you feel? They're not interested then. But watch it if we happen to draw against Liverpool or we beat Liverpool next week. I guarantee you now, Sutton, Savage, all them will be going, how are the Newcastle fans? You just drew against Liverpool, the champions. Where are you? It's just spiraling all the time.
You just look at the reaction that they have now because of the situation that Arsenal find themselves in, where things aren't going very well for them at the moment, and the pundits are actually are completely up in arms that Arteta's terrible. He's doing a terrible job. You know what a shame it is for the Arsenal fans. They shouldn't have to put up with this. It's an absolute disgrace. We've had this for years and years and years. Where is the outrage and the outcry from the pundits of what we have to put up with just because it's Arsenal? What is the difference?
My personal
them have
the likes
been Champions League and won the league like a while ago. Don't get us wrong.
So were we, Ticker. That's the whole point. So were we.
It's probably just because it's fresher now. That's all it is. With Arsenal, obviously, they've been a hell of a lot more successful than us in more recent years, and that's what it is. But I think, and this is just a personal opinion, I think the likes of these shows, the likes of the radio shows and even TV shows to a certain degree, is they're worried about this sort of thing. So the likes of YouTube and the fact that fans now have got a platform to have their say, and fans of that club will watch things like this. And what they do now is what Daryl and what Neil said earlier on. They're just there to stir the pot now, to get fans riled up, to get them pissed off. So they ring and have a discussion that way, rather than a decent discussion and a debate like we can have. All 4 of us, we never agree with each other. There's times like Mark thinking Die Hard's a Christmas movie, where we'll go to town on each other. And I think that's what the likes of these radio stations, the fear really, because the likes of fan channels and podcasts, they're on the up, and YouTube is on the up. It's something where now they're only going to get listeners if it's that false anger sort of thing now.
Well, the other problem you have as well is that every time I listen to the likes, well, I don't often, but I might listen to the odd clip if a Newcastle fan has been on. They don't let you have a fair debate. They don't even let you finish a sentence half the time. And as you've rightly said, Chris, there before, you'll see them sort of on the camera, if you like, which is sort of, it's shared later. Yeah. Like Savage will be saying, he'll be sitting there doing this, like wind them up. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's just all a game. So you might ring in and you might try, you want to have a sensible debate and a conversation, but they're not willing to do that. So you want to lose her as soon as you fucking answer the phone, really, like, to be honest.
That's what happened with my mate John, who rang up and he was having a conversation and basically shooting them down on all of the arguments that they had. And every Newcastle supporter was praising him for it, but they constantly cut him off in the question, stopped them from what he was saying, interrupting him throughout so that he couldn't get into to basically proving them wrong and having a sensible debate. They just wanted to have an argument.
Yeah, it's not on. It's just not on.
Yeah, I think that about sums it all up. Unless you've got anything to add before we end this one tonight.
I don't know if you have seen, but there's in the last hour or so, there's been lots and lots of mentions around that the Premier League could be pausing again in January.
Yeah.
Really?
So apparently our game on Wednesday is now in doubt. I'm not sure as to why. Have Liverpool played Man City recently?
We have.
We have. Well, possibly that could be the case. Yeah, retesting our players. So yeah, obviously Man City game against was it Everton that was supposed to be playing tonight? That got called off. Obviously we've just played Man City, so I would expect all of our players will be getting a test tomorrow. See how that comes back.
Yeah,
and yeah, so like Mark mentioned, there's been a lot of comments in the chat about the rumours going round that we're maybe having a forced break once again in January, which takes you right back to the start. As is, should this season ever went ahead? It's one of those things. It's one of those which I don't. Well, I do understand it to a certain degree, and the clubs have tried the hardest to put these protocols in place. But like you saw in Newcastle United, we said at the time we wouldn't be the last club to have a game postponed because of an outbreak of COVID. It's now happened at Manchester City. And that won't be the last one either. There'll be more.
Sunderland are in pieces at the minute. 4 or 5 games now. And it's obviously like have a good old laugh at them and not like. And it's in a 46 game season, they're going to have some really, really condensed weeks now, just because of that, the nature of it. And I think you've got to. I've seen you've got to pause it. I don't know the ins and outs, but when you look at the new strains of viruses going around and stuff like that, and London's now in tier 4, and the tiers are getting higher as we go along, and I'm not Chris Whitty, but it seems sensible if they've got these super contagious, just not let them head for it a while. It's shite for us anyway, so it gives us a bit of a break.
Yeah, it gives us a break. Yeah, it gives us a break. I think the thing for me, which international friendlies were still going on. Like, what was all that about? Like, you've got players jetting all over the world, and then coming back to the club, and a lot of it would have been spread that way. Of course, it would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, what I have enjoyed, I'll be honest, is that every game has been on the telly within reason. Yeah. So I've loved having so much football. I probably never watched as much football, if I'm honest. I try not to. I don't really want to watch us, but I've enjoyed watching other games. But I probably agree. This is the second club in the Premier League anyway that's had a breakout, and it ain't going to stop, is it? It's not going to stop, and I feel that maybe a break is probably right.
Yeah,
and for us,
you can't see it coming. There's a comment there from David Eddy talking about Tier 5. If Tier 5 does come along, for fine well the likes of sport's going to be getting shut down as well. So hang on, we've just had a new member. Let's have a look. Where is it? I've lost it. I can't get it on.
Thank you to that
Joe
new
Smith.
member, Joe. It's another Joe.
It's another Joe.
Another Joe.
We'll go to
half-past now. We'll go to half-past now because of Joe.
Well, we'll go for another few minutes. I have seen that there's been a few comments by Daniel Storey in the chat. I'm not sure if it is Daniel Storey, if it's somebody pretending to be Daniel Storey. So I've got a feeling it might be him. But the comments are there for you all to see. I don't want to read them out here because we don't want to receive an email to get taken off either. So the comments are there. So if you want to go through the chat, by all means, those. If it is a real Daniel Storey, please stand up. See what I did there? So yeah, I'm ready to call it a night. Thanks to the two members who signed up tonight, which we've seen. If you have signed up, we haven't popped that display on the screen. I do apologise. The comment section has gone mental tonight, absolutely through the roof. But that'll be us before the new year. We won't be back as of 4 until afterwards. You might get your instant reaction. You've got a couple more videos coming up soon. There's one being recorded right now for where Matty is being joined by a Liverpool fan to discuss Wednesday's game, and you've got extra time, which should be ready to go out tomorrow morning. So
the time machine.
Busy. Yeah, time machine. So full of busy as always, and we'll see you in 2021 when football is getting cancelled. See you later.
I think it was cancelled when Bruce walked through the door.
Bye.